Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Relationship Talks. I'm your host, Lorrie Brook, and together we will get to take a look at what goes on behind closed doors. Today, it is another solo episode, and I wanted to talk to you today about expectations. For me, expectations are one of those silent killers of relationships. It can be one of those areas that cause so much conflict without there ever being a discussion, a conversation, or a reason why. So let's delve into this a little bit further for today's episode. So, an expectation, we all know that there are certain things that we automatically expect will happen. We automatically expect that the sun's going to come up every morning, that, summer's going to be hot, winter's going to be cold. And the same happens in our relationships, except for the fact that we don't communicate them. For some people, it is as simple as expecting that when the rubbish bin is full, the rubbish gets taken out. Or you expect that when you see a pile of washing, you put the washing on or you put the washing away. That you expect someone to say good morning, good night, whatever it may be. So there's so many areas where we can have these expectations. But what happens is we don't actually communicate them at any particular point in time. We don't say to the other person, it's my expectation that if you see there's dirty dishes in the sink, that you put them in the dishwasher or you turn the dishwasher on. You don't say that it's my expectation that when the rubbish bin is full, I expect you to take it out. I don't want to have to do that. And so on, depending on what your expectations are. We just automatically assume that the other person knows. And then what happens when it doesn't take place, when our expectations aren't met, is that we start feeling resentful. We start feeling frustrated. We start feeling angry and upset. And we create these stories inside of our heads about why the other person didn't do what we expected. They didn't take the rubbish out because they don't like helping around the house. They didn't unstack the dishwasher because they clearly think that's my job to do. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. And we keep creating these stories and we mull on them and stew on them, and they become bigger and bigger and bigger. But when you stop and take a step back, you will start to realize that, oh, hang on, I've never actually said that I wanted this to happen. I've just assumed they would realize. And something that we often do is make assumptions. We often assume that because it is something that we would do, other people would do it as well. But you can't operate from the basis of an assumption. You can't assume that because you would take the rubbish out, other people would do the same thing. It's human nature, after all. But more than that as well, what we can also find ourselves doing is saying, well, last week I asked them to take the rubbish out. So this week they should know to just take the rubbish out. But the language we've used may have indicated that it was only a one-off thing. So it is really important when we're having these conversations with our partners that we're being very articulate, that we're being very clear in what our expectations are. And this isn't just about household chores. This isn't about parenting. This is about your relationship as well. What are your expectations in terms of how you are treated in that relationship? What you expect from quality time, from goodwill, from communication. Expectations cover so many areas. And where expectations come, assumptions come as well. So what we need to do is jump in before expectations and assumptions rear its head, and we can start to have those open and honest conversations. It's my expectation that we will spend one night a month talking about our relationship, talking about what went well, what didn't go well. It's my expectation that if there's an issue, you'll tell me about it. And then if we need to, we'll schedule a time to sit down and talk about it. It's my expectation that if you're upset with me, I'd like you to tell me why. There's so many different areas that we can have these expectations without realizing it, and without realizing that we've never communicated it. And until we start to learn how to communicate our expectations, we're going to continue on this roundabout of getting frustrated and upset because our expectations aren't getting met, and wondering why they don't want to make us happy or make us feel like we're a team, whatever the story is that you're telling yourself inside your head. So there's that little snippet on expectations for you. I hope you've found that helpful. Like always, remember the choice is yours. Make today and every day the very best it can be. And I'll see you on our next solo episode. Bye for now. And thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Relationship Talks. If you can, I would love for you to jump on and leave a review. And whilst you are at it, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please join me again next week when we get to take a look behind closed doors at someone else's relationship. But until then, I am your host, Lorrie Brook, and remember the choice is yours, so make today and the week the very best it can be.